Hello, creative, and welcome back to the Empowered Creatives podcast, finding confidence between hustle and burnout. I'm your host, Victoria Hines, creative career coach, helping creatives just like you navigate the twists and turns in your creative career. I'm really excited about the topic this week as it's something that we've touched on briefly, or I've touched on with many of my guests here on the show. It's something I know I've had clients struggle with this. I myself struggle with this. It's a very prolific problem, and that is balancing a full-time 9 to 5 quote unquote job with your passion side gig. Now, notice I rephrase from using the word side hustle, mainly because this podcast is all about avoiding the hustle culture, which I don't think is healthy, but it's still important. All of us are creatives, and so many of us have these big dreams, these big goals, and we want to see them all into fruition. And the reality is, sometimes we need that full-time job in order to, frankly, live, in order to pay the bills, in order to have a house, in order to have food on the table, in order to take care of our kids, maybe. The full-time job can be a life support. Because if you remember me, or if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you've heard me talk about how we all need time, energy, and money to be creative and run a creative business. And I think a lot of us, I know I did for many, many years, saw a 9 to 5 as encroaching on the time and wanting to avoid it. But you cannot forget that energy and money are two other really important resources. And it can be a struggle. If you're struggling for money and you are not able to meet your basic needs, it is going to be very, very hard to be creative and run a creative business and live a creative life. So many of us, including myself, have full-time jobs on top of the thing we love to do. I work for a tech company during most of my week. And then I run my business. I work with clients one-on-one. I host this podcast. I do all the other small little administrative things to keep this business buzzing along. Oh my gosh, there are days where I wish I could be doing this full time, but I know that right now, balancing these two the way that they are is what I'm meant to be doing. Because there's some pretty lofty goals that I have in my personal life, and I need the financial oxygen. I need the financial energy from my full-time job that I do enjoy. I do feel challenged by. And that financial energy is what I get to turn around and use to build the life I want, and therefore set me up for long-term success in eventually running this business full-time. The part about all of this that just plain sucks is that it's a long game. It is very much a long game. It's not going to magically change overnight, but I think there is some really brilliant strategies and techniques to learn on how to balance both. Now, when I say balance, I want to caveat this. It's not always going to feel balanced. Balance simply means, to me, my definition of balance means that I am oscillating energy between these two different things. There are some weeks where my energy is going 110% towards my day job. Okay, well, let's cap it out at 100. I sometimes feel like I'm overextending my energy, but that's my personality type. So there are weeks where 100% of my energy is going towards work, and I maybe have 2% that I can put towards my business. There are other weeks where I can do 80% energy and 20% focusing on my business and my free time, my side hours. So it's it's a constant, it's very much a spinning plates and keeping a bunch of things up in the air. And just knowing that at the end of the day, you're doing the best you can to build a long-term successful life for yourself. So, for all my amazing, incredible creatives out there who are working full time and building a business on the side, or whether that be an art business or writing a book because you want to be an author or launching a freelance career, whatever it may be, this episode is for you.
Hey there, creative. I have a delightful invitation just for you. Imagine diving even deeper into the incredible world of living your life as an empowered creative, including more tips, tricks, and advice arriving straight into your inbox. Sounds pretty cool, right? Well, guess what? I've got something special brewing, and I don't want you to miss out. Introducing my so awesome bi-weekly email newsletter. It's a vibrant community bursting with passion, curiosity, and the love of building a creative life. By joining my newsletter, you'll get first access to new promotions and launches, as well as my welcoming voice in your ear every other week. Also, I'll share with you my creative career audit worksheet, a secret tool myself and clients have used during our own career transitions and pivots. So don't miss this opportunity to be my pen pal, as well as deepen your connection with fellow empowered creatives by heading to www.victoriahines.com or following the link in the show notes below. Thank you for being such an incredible listener, and I really look forward to sharing this exciting journey with you through both the podcast and my newsletter. Now, let's dive back into the show.
All right, creatives. So I'm going to share with you 7 strategies to balance your 9 to 5 with your side gig. Now, this could be a business. This could be a creative endeavor that hasn't quite turned into a business. You could be at different phases of this side gig, and that's okay. Regardless, balancing the two can be quite the act. So here's 7 strategies that I have learned through the, I believe 2 years that I've been balancing a full-time job with this gig, but I also spent many, many years balancing a full-time administrative gig with my acting career as well. So I would say most of my adult life, I've actually spent balancing a full-time job with a side gig. So these are all 7 brilliant strategies I'm going to share with you in order to find the balance between the two and feel like you are making some progress in having some success in, frankly, both. So strategy number 1 is to prioritize and manage your time. I know it's not sexy. You've probably heard this one over and over and over again. Ick. Calendars, lists, putting boxes around things. It just feels restrictive. It can feel exhausting. It can feel not fun. And I'm saying this as somebody who is actually type A, and I enjoy feeling structured and organized. And I still can find list making and organization of 2 jobs and 2 things that I enjoy can be exhausting. But that organization is key, and it's what's going to give your brain some structure so you don't feel like everything is out of control. So there are going to be certain hours and certain priorities during the week that have to go to your full-time job. And with that full-time job, it's often going to have to take priority. So putting those hours and putting those boundaries around that job can be very helpful because that sets your parameter of this is what I'm giving to this full-time job. And everything else outside of that is your free zone. Now, I will say if you have a family, I know you're going to be probably struggling maybe a little bit more with balancing the family and kids and all of those things as well. So you are going to be a little bit more restricted, which is going to be challenging. Regardless, this organization piece is going to be huge. So underneath this pocket, I highly recommend having centralized to-do lists. and keeping the different, but with this centralization, keep the different factors of your life separate. So you want these to-do lists to be all in one place. If you travel, you want to take them all with you. You want to have them around near your desk where you work. Keep them on you at all times. And make sure the different avenues of your life have different lists. So I always keep one list for my life, my just regular life. Oh, I need to take the car into the shop, or I need to call so and so. So that's one list. I have one for my business, and I have one for work, my full-time job. So having these different lists all in the same place can make it very easy and quick to reference, so you can jumpstart very quickly, and you're not having to go and search for lists or spend your time doing that. I also recommend, especially with a side gig, because a lot of your energy is going to go towards your full-time job, is to really focus on allocating specific time blocks on your calendar. So sitting down at the beginning of the week, I usually choose a Sunday, and I look at my list of what has to get done in my business this week. What is overdue? What is priority? What's necessary? And I estimate how many hours is this going to take me? And I sit down and I block out on my calendar when I am going to address that. Right now, I'm in such a chaotic period in my life with all of the traveling I've been doing. I actually tend to do this at the beginning of the month. Otherwise, I would not set aside the time to work on this. And I know that maybe I need 10 hours in a month to focus on my business. So I go in and I find those time blocks and I block them off so that I can focus on the things that I need to for my business and to move that side gig forward. Another really big key thing, as much as possible, is to avoid context switching. It's very, very easy for us in this day and age to want to, and we've all done it, you work on your full-time job, and then maybe you have a 5-minute break and you're like, okay, I'm going to context switch to this other thing for my side gig. And then maybe you go back to your full-time job and then you context switch to your side gig. And there are maybe some small things like answering a text or looking at an email that you can get away with. But when it comes to taking client meetings, marketing initiatives, getting sucked into a project and having the focus time to really focus on your craft, those things need longer, lengthier, bigger dedications of time. And if you find yourself trying to context switch between your full-time job and these big initiatives, and then back to your full-time job, and then these other things for your side gig, and you do that 4, 5, 6 times a day, you are probably going to feel much more drained by the end of the day instead of invigorated by this gig that you love. So, as hard as it is, the more you can say, okay, great, 9 to 5, you're focusing on your full-time job. Maybe you have an hour of commuting in there, and then you're going to spend 1 hour every evening on your business. That's going to go a whole lot further than trying to oscillate throughout your entire day. If any of you have ever been freelancers and you've juggled 5, 6 jobs, you're running from job to job to job, and they're all different, they're not really related in any way, shape, or form, you know how exhausted you can feel at the end of the day when you've done that. The same thing goes when you do that when you have a full-time job and a side gig. So avoid context switching. All right. I feel like that was like 2 strategies into one, but all of that is encompassed under prioritizing and managing your time. So strategy number 2 is to set realistic expectations. You have to avoid comparing yourself to someone who is operating their art business or their creative business full time. You cannot compare yourself, and this is very challenging. I have so many entrepreneur friends who started their business around the same time as me. And it's hard. It's hard sometimes to look at what they do and where they've gotten to in the last 3.5 years and just feel envious. Envious that I'm not in that same position. But I also know that their circumstances were different when they set up those businesses. Their life is different. They have different things working for them or against them. And reminding myself that it's okay where I am today takes a lot of that pressure off. So setting those realistic expectations keeps you from comparing yourself to people who are way further down the road than you. And it's not because they're more skilled, they're more talented. They might just have more resources and time and money and energy to devote to this. And that's okay. None of us are equal. None of us have the same privileges, the same supply of time, energy, and money. It's all a balancing act, and your time will come too. So I want you to watch your energy levels and really figure out how many hours a week, a month, or even a day can you devote to your business or side gig, and be realistic. Be kind to yourself. Even if you just do one thing a day or even one thing a week that moves your business, your side gig, your creative career forward, that is a massive win. And I promise you, it is more than a lot of other people out there. Moving at a turtle's pace is still a pace, and you are still moving forward. Strategy number 3, eliminate responsibilities from your plate. When I was working on my business full time, I had so much time to experiment, try new things, waste time, try launching something. I think I did so many workshops and these big launches that probably in hindsight maybe weren't the best use of my time. I would say yes to so many things. And I just had so much time. So I was like, yes, 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 trying to move the needle forward. Well, when you have a full-time job on top of running a business or your side gig, you can't do that. Suddenly, you have to get very economical with your time because your time is now highly precious. So you need to delegate, automate, or say no. Anything that is not a high-level task, it's not in your zone of genius, anything that is taking up a ton of time but really isn't going to result in 80% of your wins, that is something you should delegate. If you can, take some of that financial money you are getting from your full-time job, hire somebody, find an expert, get expert advice, delegate it off your plate. The other thing is automate, and I would actually put AI in this as well. What are those tasks, those annoying things that you have to do that recur every now and again or pop up over and over and over again? Use automation and AI tools to take some of those tasks off your plate. So for instance, I have a whole process with booking podcast guests. I have a very structured process. I have email templates, I have Calendly invites, I have a form. There are some few things I would still love to automate, but there is a process. So when I go to book a guest, it's not a huge, laborious manual process over and over and over again. So find areas in your side gig or business where you can also improve the process as well. Tools like, I would say Zapier is a really great one for small business owners. And a lot of the tools such as like Calendly, any sort of cloud-based app software, a lot of those will have integrations with other apps. So really do a deep dive in figuring out, can this app integrate with another app, and can I automate some of these processes so you are not spending time doing them? Last but not least, say no. Just say no. You're going to have to get very, very laser focused on what your priority is in your side gig at any given point in time. And if what somebody is asking you to do doesn't have to do with that, if a client approaches you who you're not sure you want to work with, you're kind of hesitant about, just say no. It's not worth the time. When you have a full-time job and you get the gigs or commissions or clients, you want to work with the people who light you up. So say no to everything else. Say yes to the things that inspire you, uplift you, and really feel like they're making a difference. All right. Strategy number 4, seek support and community. This is actually one that I think I need to work on. This is going to be a big priority for me, especially in 2024. We all need support, we need inspiration, and we need community. It's very, very hard to prioritize these things when you have a full-time job, because a lot of the community you're building is in that world, in that space that you're showing up to day in and day out. Now, if those communities overlap between your 9-to-5 day job and your side gig, amazing, incredible. You are so freaking lucky. When they don't overlap, which is what I'm in the situation of, then you do sort of have to say, okay, some of those hours that I'm devoting to my business every month, they have to go towards seeking out community, networking, connecting with other entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. The more you tap out, the more you step away from those groups, it's going to be harder and harder to feel motivated in your side gig. It just is. So whatever you can do, and it might be you can only spend 3 months a year focused on this, and that might be all you can get. It might just be a virtual community and you log in once a week. But whatever you do, seek community, seek support, and keep tapping into it, because that is what's going to feed back into you and give you the energy to keep going with building your side gig. Strategy number 5, keep learning. Invest in those skills and knowledge that are going to make you more efficient and effective in your entrepreneurial endeavors. This could be investing in your craft, and this can also be investing in your business. I know so many creatives out there. I know you want to spend all of your time taking like the art lessons or the writing lessons or being in writing groups, and that is wonderful and great. And there is also going to come a time where your skill set, your artistic skill set, is not the thing holding you back anymore. It's actually your entrepreneurial or business skill set. So I would pay close attention to that. And just remember that it's just like seeking out community and support, also finding time to keep learning, taking classes, whether those are virtual, in person, that can be incredibly, incredibly important to staying invested, energized, and on top of what's happening in your industry for your side gig. All right, strategy number 6. Set your 9-to-5 why. Okay, what do I mean by this? You are working this 9-to-5 job for a reason. You might enjoy it, which I do. It might play to your skills and strengths, which is the truth for me. It might not, and that's okay too. But understand your why. Remember why you are showing up 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Remember why you are dealing with some of the stress from that job sometimes. How is this 9-to-5 job aligning with your overall career and business goals? That's up to you. It could be monetary goals, like providing the financial oxygen for your business, giving you health insurance so that you can focus on your side gig on the side. It could be helping you build an emergency fund or buying a home before you switch into doing your side gig full time. It could also be giving you a lot of those skill sets that are eventually going to funnel themselves into your side gig as well. Whatever that may be, figure out your why and write it down. Know why you are showing up day after day after day, because it's going to make that 9 to 5, that full-time job that you have means so much more. It's going to increase the importance so that you are invested in it as well as your side gig. My one little piece I'll toss in here is, I would say probably most of you, all of you, have goals of moving into your side gig full-time. That's why we have side gigs. Otherwise, we'd just be working a 9 to 5 job and call it a day. So all of us want to eventually have this side gig, take over your full-time, and that's okay. Set financial goals for yourself. Know what the financial metric would be in order for you to take the leap into your side gig full-time. That could be having an emergency fund in place. It could be a year of savings so that you can live off of it while you're doing the side gig full-time. It could be so many other things, but know what those finish lines are so that when they happen, you know that you are ready to take the leap, because the leap is going to be scary no matter what you do. So setting it early on, writing it down, keeping it in stone is going to help you know when it's time to make the leap. All right, the 7th strategy to balance your full-time job and your side gig is to celebrate the wins. Celebrate every win that you have, even if it's small. It can be incredibly difficult, lonely, exhausting, taking a step back from a full-time job and going into your side gig or business where you're probably building on your own. And that's lonely. And it can feel long. It can feel like a terribly long journey, especially if you keep looking at people around you or on social media and comparing your journey to theirs. So I need you, and I need to take this advice myself, to celebrate the wins. I'll share a big win I had this year. I did some investing. A friend gave me some free, in exchange for some other things, but some great SEO advice. And I've been, over the years, tweaking my website. It's not perfect, but way better than where it started when I first launched my business. And I did a lot of SEO investment, and then I stepped away. I checked that off my list. And what actually happened this year, 2 of my clients found me via Google, via SEO. That search engine optimization, whatever I did, somehow paid off and worked. I don't know how. It feels like magic. But I have to trust that the small things that I did over time eventually led to this very big win. So celebrate it. Even checking off a small thing on your to-do list can be a really big win. So creative. Here's your one thing this week. I want you to choose one of the strategies that I mentioned to help you balance your full-time job with your side gig. All right. As a reminder, here are the strategies. Number 1, prioritize and manage your time. 2, set realistic expectations. 3, eliminate responsibilities from your plate. 4, seek support and community. 5, keep learning. 6, set your 9 to 5 why. And 7, celebrate the small wins. I know the strategy that I'm going to be working on and prioritizing this year is to seek support and community. That's something I need to build back up again. It's something that I feel like I'm lacking. And I want to challenge each and every one of you who is working a full-time job as well as your creative, artistic side gig. I want to challenge you to choose one of these strategies and focus on it this week, this month, or maybe even this upcoming year. All right, creative, if you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It's the #1 way you can show love. And with that being said, until next week, stay creative.